Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define angiosperms, find out various parts of a plant, define morphology, find out characteristics of roots, study types of root systems, study different regions of roots, identify modifications of taproot system, find out modifications of adventitious roots, study modifications for vital functions, understand functions of roots. Roots. Root is the underground part of the plant. It is mostly brown. Root is positively geotropic, positively hydrotropic, and negatively phototropic. The branches of root arise from inner region, so it is endogenous. Plants bear lateral roots of several orders that are referred to as secondary roots or tertiary roots. The primary root is the direct prolongation of the radicle in nearly all dicotyledonous plants. Root is protected at its tip by a protective structure called root cap. In aquatic plants, there are root pockets for balancing. Root bears unicellular root hairs occurring in cluster for the absorption of water and minerals. Types of root system. There are three types of root system in plants: tap root system, fibrous root system, adventitious root system. Tap root system. The root which develops from radicle along with its branches is termed as taproot. Secondary roots develop from taproot. Example, carrot. Fibrous root system. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root are short-lived and are replaced by a large number of roots. These roots develop from base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root. Example, wheat. Adventitious root system. In certain plants, root arises from places other than radicle. Such roots are called adventitious roots. Examples, grass, monstera, and banyan tree. Regions of the root. The longitudinal section of the root apex shows following 5 regions: root cap region, region of meristematic cells, region of elongation, region of root hairs, region of maturation. Root cap region. The apical region of root is covered by a protective structure of thin-walled cells known as root cap. The cells of root cap secrete mucilage which lubricates the soil through which the root has to grow. Root cap also helps in the movement of root in the soil. Region of meristematic cells. Actively dividing cells from a small region called apical meristem at the root tip. Quiescent center is located in the center of this zone, which is made of inactive cells or cells having low cellular activity. Apical meristem of root tip consists of 3 zones. Dermatogen, outermost layer of cells which make epidermis and root cap. Peribulum, it lies inner to dermatogen. Its cells form cortex by division. Plerome, it is the innermost layer of cell of the apical meristem to make steel. Its cells divide to form phloem and xylem elements. Region of elongation. The cells of this region absorb water. They elongate in the region of elongation. Region of root hairs. The cells of the epiblemma prolongate to form unicellular hairs. This zone takes part in the absorption of water and mineral salt. Modifications of roots. To perform functions other than absorption and conduction of water and minerals, roots in some plant change their shape and structure and become modified for support storage of food and respiration. Modifications of tap roots. Taproots get modified into following types. Fleshy taproot with or without hypocotyl becomes swollen due to storage of food. Such root is of 4 types. Fusiform root. Such root becomes thicker in the middle and tapering on both ends. It assumes a spindle shape. Example, radish, Raphanus sativus. Conical root. It is broad at the base and gradually tapers towards the apex, giving it the shape of a cone. Example, carrot. Napiform root. It is swollen at the base and tapering abruptly in the apical region, giving rise to a top-shaped structure. Examples, turnip and sugar beet. Tuberous root. It is swollen irregularly. Example, 4 o'clock plant, Mirabilis jalapa. Branched taproot. Sometimes the taproot gets branched and branches modify to perform various functions. Such roots are of the following types. Nodulated roots. In this type, the taproot gets variously branched, and at the junction of branches, many small irregular swellings called root nodules arise. They contain a large number of symbiotic N2-fixing bacteria. Such roots occur in legumes. Example, Rhizobium leguminosarum. Respiratory roots. They are also called breathing roots. These occur in swamps or marshy places where soil becomes waterlogged and roots of plants do not get enough air for respiration. The secondary roots of these plants growing negatively geotropically into air have lenticels. They are called respiratory roots, pneumatophores. Examples, Rhizophora and Sonoratia. Reproductive roots. In some plants, taproots or their branches develop adventitious buds for formation of new plants. Examples, Dahlbergia sisu, Populus, etc. Turnips and adventitious roots of sweet potato get swollen and store food. These are called prop roots, modifications of adventitious roots for storage of food. To perform functions like storage of food, mechanical support, and some special or vital functions, adventitious roots get modified into following types. Tuberous roots, fasciculated roots, beaded or moniliform roots, nodulated roots, annellated roots. Tuberous roots. A single indefinite-shaped root arising from nodes of weak stem. Example, sweet potato. Fasciculated roots. A cluster of tuberous root. Examples, dahlia, Zeolia, asparagus, etc. Beaded or moniliform roots. Roots swollen at regular intervals like beads of a necklace. Examples, Portulaca, Indian spinach, bitter gourd. Nodulated roots. Roots swell at their tips. Example, mango, ginger. Annellated roots. A series of ring-like swellings. Example, ipecac. Modifications of adventitious roots for mechanical support. Prop roots. Pillar-like root arising singly from one point of horizontally growing branches and growing vertically downward. Example, banyan. Still roots. Thin, thread-like small roots growing obliquely from the basal nodes of the main stem. Examples, maize, sugarcane, screw pine. Climbing roots. Thread-like roots arising from nodes and internodes and surrounding the support. Examples, beetle, black pepper, money plant, poisonous ivy. Buttress. Thick roots that flare out from the base of large canopy trees, often found on rainforest trees that provide support as well as additional nutrients. Examples, Salmelia, old banyan tree, etc. Contractile roots. roots having wrinkles and can shrink. Examples: saffron, jimmycand, etc. Floating roots. Thick, spongy, fleshy roots with air-filled air chambers arising from the nodes of stem. Example: Jussier repens. Leaf roots. Root produced on the injured margin of leaves. Examples: Bryophyllum, Bignonia, etc. Modifications for vital functions. Epiphytic or hygroscopic roots. A special kind of aerial root hanging freely in the air and possessing a covering of dead spongy tissue known as velamen to absorb moisture, having no root cap and root hair. Example: Vanda Roxburghi, etc. Assimilatory or photosynthetic roots. Green roots capable of photosynthesis. Example: water chestnut, gursha, etc. Parasitic roots or hostorial roots or suctorial roots. Roots penetrating the host with the help of hostoria. Example: dodder. Mycorrhizal roots. Roots associated with fungi. Examples: cheer, birch, etc. Root thorns. Roots modified into hard-pointed structures. Examples: Acanthoryza, pothos, etc. Reproductive roots. Roots bearing vegetative buds. Examples: Trichosanthes, Ipomeo, etc. Functions of roots. Anchorage. Roots fix the plant in the soil. They also provide mechanical support to the aerial parts against gravity and wind. Absorption of water and minerals. Root hair zone of the root is specialized to absorb water because the thin-walled tubular root hairs are able to pass into fine interspace of the soil. Minerals occur in very dilute concentration in soil water. Roots are specialized to absorb the same partly in the root hair zone and partly in the elongation zone. Conduction of water and minerals. Water and minerals absorbed by the rootlets are conducted by the various parts of the root system to the shoot system. Holding soil particles. By their branches and mucilaginous secretions, the roots bind the soil particles against forces of erosion. Hygroscopic roots. Young prop roots of banyan and epiphytic roots are specialized to absorb water from damp air. Nitrogen fixation. Nodulated roots of pulses and other legumes contain nitrogen-fixing symbiotic bacteria of Rhizobium species. They increase the protein content of the crop plants. Aeration. Pneumatophores take part in exchange of gases in many mangrove plants. Knee roots and prop roots of these mangrove plants also help in aeration. Storage of food materials in roots. Normal roots store small quantity of nutrients. Certain roots are specialized to retain a large quantity of nutrients because of which they swell up. Examples: radish, turnip and beet, sweet potato, asparagus and dahlia, carrot, orchids, mango, ginger, Momodica, ipcac. Mechanical support, clinging. A number of climbers possess one or more adventitious roots for clinging to the support. Examples: beetle, tecoma, ivy. Hostorial roots. They occur in parasitic plants. The roots penetrate the host and withdraw water, nourishment, or both. Examples: cuscata, viscum. Release of oxygen. Roots of rice and some other amphibious plants release oxygen that overcomes the reducing environment for functioning of various microorganisms and availability of minerals. Photosynthesis by roots. Roots of Trapa, Tinospora, Teniophyllum, and Podostemum are green and photosynthetic. They synthesize organic nutrients for the whole plants. Reproductive roots. Many roots can develop adventitious buds and take part in vegetative propagation. Example, poplar, dalbergia, dahlia, sweet potato. Protection by roots. Root thorns and root spines present in certain plants are protective devices against animals and excessive loss of water. Mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza are roots having symbiotic association with fungi. The fungi help the roots in obtaining water and minerals. Did you know? When root pockets are once lost, they can be regenerated. Root cap is continuously produced from root apex. Podostemon is made up of only roots. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. Flowering plants vary in habit, habitat, shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, and lifespan. The plant body is mainly divided into root, stem, and leaves. The stem bears flowers and fruits. The stem is aerial part and root is underground part of a plant. The root system is of two types, taproot or fibrous root. Taproot is found in dicotyledonous and fibrous root in monocotyledonous plants. In some plants, root is modified for storage of food, mechanical support, and respiration. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to find out characteristics of stem, study types of stems, identify modifications of reduced stems, find out underground modifications of stems, study subaerial modifications of stems, study aerial modifications of stems, study special modifications of stems, and understand functions of stems. Stems. The stem is the ascending part of the axis, bearing branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Stem is generally green when young, and later often become woody and dark brown. A stem is one of two main structural axes of a vascular plant. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. In most plants, stems are located above the soil surface, but some plants have underground stems as well. The stem is normally divided into nodes and internodes. The nodes hold buds which grow into one or more leaves, inflorescence flowers, cones, or other stems, etc. The stem bears buds, which may be terminal or axillary. A young undeveloped shoot with an immature axis having a growing point surrounded by many closely packed tender leaves is called bud. Branching of stem. The mode of arrangement of branches on the main axis of stem is known as branching. The two principal types of branching are lateral branching, dichotomous branching. Lateral branching. When the branches arise from the sides of the stem, the branching is called lateral. The mode of branching in which the growing point does not bifurcate. The branches arise from the axillary buds of the nodes. It is of two types, racemose, chymose. Racemose. When the stem indefinitely grows by the terminal bud, the lateral branches of the main stem are arranged in an acropetal succession, produced successively towards the apex with the older branches towards the base and younger ones towards the apex. As a result of this branching, the plant appears conical or pyramidal in shape. Chymose. When the growth of the main stem is definite, the main stem produces lateral branches which grow more vigorously than the main axis. As a result of this branching, the plant spreads out above and becomes more or less dome-shaped. Chymose is of three types: uniparous chyme, biparous chyme, multiparous chyme. Uniparous chyme. A chymose type of branching with only one lateral branch produced at a time. It is also known as monocaseal or sympodial. It shows two distinct types, namely helicoid and scorpioids. Biparous chyme. When two lateral branches develop at a time, the branching is said to be biparous or dicasial. Example, Datura, Carissa. Multiparous chyme. When more than two branches develop at a time, the branching is said to be multiparous or polycasial. Example, Euphorbia, Croton bonplandianums, dichotomous branching. When the terminal bud bifurcates, producing two branches in a forked manner, the branching is called dichotomous branching. It is common among the cryptogams and also in some angiosperms like screwpine, pandanus, clinogyne dichotoma, etc. Modifications of stem. Change in form to perform functions other than normal is called modifications. On the basis of habitat, stem can be modified into three categories: underground modification of stem, subaerial modification of stem, aerial modification of stem. Underground modifications of stem. The underground stems, by being situated below the surface of the soil, protect themselves against unfavorable conditions of weather and the attack of animals, and serve as storehouses for reserve food and in vegetative propagation. Their stem nature can be distinguished by the presence of nodes and internodes, scale leaves at the nodes, axillary buds in the axils of scale leaves, and a terminal bud. The underground stems are of four types, namely rhizome, tuber, bulb, and corm. Rhizome. A rhizome is a thick horizontally growing stem which usually stores food material. It has nodes and internodes, scale leaves, axillary buds, adventitious roots, and a terminal bud. Scale leaves enclosing the axillary buds are seen arising from the nodal points of the stem. Roots develop from the lower surface of the rhizome. Example, ginger, turmeric. Tuber. Tuber is the swollen end of an underground branch which arises from the axil of a lower leaf, which grows horizontally outwards in the soil. Each tuber is irregular in shape due to the deposition of food materials, starch. On the surface of each tuber, many leaf scars are seen. These leaf scars are the impressions of fallen scale leaves. Each such leaf scar encloses an axillary bud. A leaf scar with an axillary bud is called an eye. These eyes of potato are capable of producing new plants by vegetative propagation. Example, potato. Bulb. In bulb, the stem is reduced and shown by a short disc. The lower surface of the stem produces many adventitious roots. Examples, onion, garlics. In bulbs of onion, garlic, etc., the inner leaves are fleshy, while the outer ones are dry. This is called as tunicated bulb, since the concentric leaf bases form a complete covering or tunic. The apical bud of the bulb produces shoot. Corm. A corm is a greatly swollen underground basal portion of an erect stem. The swelling is due to the storage of reserve food material. It bears scale leaves and axillary buds. At the end of the growing season, the aerial parts die. In favorable conditions, usually one axillary bud near the apex develops into a new shoot utilizing the food reserve material in the old corm. The new plant produces a new corm at its base. The earlier corm shrivels off. Examples: Colocasia, Amorphophallus, subaerial modification of stem. In some plants, the subaerial stems are modified for the purpose of vegetative reproduction. Subaerial modifications are of the following types: runner, stolon, sucker, and offset. Runner. The runner rises from the base of the stem as a lateral branch and runs along the surface of the soil. It develops distinct nodes and internodes. At each node, the runner produces roots below and leaves above. In this way, many runners are often produced by the mother plant, and they spread out on the ground on all sides. If any accidental injury results in the separation of a runner, the severed parts are capable of leading an independent existence. Examples: Oxalis, Fragaria, Cassia statica. Stolon. The stolon has lateral branches called stolons originate from the underground stem. The stolons grow horizontally outwards for a varying distance in the soil. Ultimately, their end terminal bud emerges out of the ground and develops into a new plant. A runner, sucker, or any basal branch which produces roots is called a stolon. Example: Colocasia. Sucker. A lateral branch arising close to the ground level, traveling underground for some distance, turning up at its end, and producing a new plant is a sucker. Example: Chrysanthemum. Offset. An offset is a short, thick, runner-like branch which produces a new plant at its tip. The offsets grow in all directions from the main stem of the parent plant. If any accidental injury results in the separation of these units, each is capable of leading an independent existence. Example: Pistia, Icornia. Aerial modification of stem. In some plants, the aerial stem is modified to perform a variety of special functions. Aerial modifications are of the following types: phylloclade or cladophyle, cladode, stem thorns, stem tendrils, and bulbil. Phylloclade or cladophyle. A phylloclade is a flattened stem of several internodes functioning as a leaf. In Opuntia, the stem is modified into a green flattened structure called phylloclade. On the surface of the phylloclade, clusters of spines are formed. These spines are the modified leaves of the axillary bud. These spines not only check the rate of transpiration, but also protect the plant from herbivores. The phylloclade has distinct nodes and internodes. Example: Opuntia. Cladode. A phylloclade of one or two internode is called a cladode. There are no suitable examples of cladodes because ruscus and asparagus, which are often considered as cladodes, are in reality cladophyles. A cladophyle is a flattened leaf-like stem arising in the axils of a minute, bract-like true leaf. Stem thorns. The thorn is a hard, straight, and pointed structure. Thorns are small, modified stems. In Bougainvillea and Duranta, the axillary bud is modified into a thorn. In Carissa, the terminal bud is modified into a pair of thorns. The thorn sometimes bears leaves, flowers, and fruits as seen in Duranta and pomegranate. The thorns not only check the rate of transpiration, but also protect the plants from herbivore grazing. Examples: Carissa, Duranta, Citrus. Stem tendrils. Tendrils develop as modifications of the stem in certain plants. The terminal bud gives rise to a tendril in Cissus quadrangularis, and the axillary bud becomes modified into a tendril in Passiflora. Bulbil. Bulbil is a special multicellular body essentially meant for reproduction. In agave, the floral buds are modified into bulbils. These bulbils get detached, come in contact with the soil, and develop into new plants. In Dioscorea, the axillary bud develops into a bulbil. This bulbil detaches from the mother plant and grows up into a new independent one. Primary functions of stems. Stems have following types of functions: primary or main function, secondary or accessory functions. Primary or main function of stem: it supports and holds leaves, flowers, and fruits. The stem conducts the water and minerals from the roots to leaves, flower, and fruits. The leaves are borne on stem in such a fashion that they are able to carry on the important function efficiently, like receiving sunlight and gaseous exchange. The stem bears flowers and fruits in position to facilitate the processes of pollination and fertilization. Secondary functions of stems. Perenation. The underground stems, as in Zingiber, Curcuma, and Dryopteris, help the plants to overcome the unfavorable conditions. Storage of food. Food is stored in parenchymatous cells, and underground stems like Solanum tuberosum, Colocasia, ginger. As climbers. The stems may be modified into tendrils, hooks, thorns, etc. to climb like Passiflora, Bougainvillea, and Vitis vinifera. Photosynthesis. When stem is modified into phylloclade and cladode like in Opuntia, Asparagus, and Ruscus, young leaf-like flattened stems help in photosynthesis. Secondary functions of stems. Vegetative propagation. Stem can be used for vegetative propagation, as in case of runners like grass, stolons like strawberry, offsets like Eichhornia, and underground stems like potato, ginger. Secondary functions of stems. Protection against browsing. By developing thorns, stems protect plants from grazing. Did you know? Woody climbers or twinners are known as liana. Thickened part of aerial stem is known as pseudobulb, and it stores water and other reserves in orchards. Banana suckers are known as sword suckers. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. The shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flowers, and fruits. The basic morphological features of stem are presence of nodes and internodes, multicellular hair. The stem is positively phototrophic. The stem also gets modified to perform various functions such as storage of food, vegetative propagation, and protection.